If you've ever wondered why some women are unforgettable, why men walk away but always seem to circle back, it's not luck, beauty, or chasing. It's how she behaves when he leaves. Tonight, I'm going to show you the exact way of acting that quietly rewires a man's mind. So instead of forgetting you, he feels drawn back again and again. This isn't manipulation. This is self-respect turned irresistible. When you stop chasing, something profound begins to shift inside you first. Chasing is not just an action, it's an emotional posture. It's the posture of leaning forward, of reaching, of extending yourself beyond your center. When you stop chasing, you reclaim your emotional balance. You stop pouring energy outward and start grounding it inward. This grounding creates a sense of calm, and calm is magnetic. People can feel when someone is centered, even if they don't consciously understand why. Chasing often comes from fear, the fear of being forgotten, replaced, or abandoned. When you stop chasing, you are not denying those fears, you are refusing to let them control your behavior. This decision alone changes how you show up. Instead of reacting impulsively, you respond thoughtfully. Instead of trying to secure someone's attention, you allow attention to come naturally. That subtle shift is powerful because it signals emotional maturity, something deeply attractive on a subconscious level. Attraction grows in space, not in pressure. When you chase, you collapse space. You fill every silence, answer every gap, and remove all mystery. By stopping, you allow room for curiosity to breathe. Curiosity is what keeps someone thinking about you when you're not around. It's what makes your absence louder than your presence ever was when you were trying too hard to be seen. When you no longer chase, you also stop negotiating your worth. Chasing often looks like over-explaining, over-giving, and overcompensating. It sends the message, even unintentionally, that you believe you must prove yourself to be chosen. The moment you stop, that message disappears. Instead, your silence communicates confidence. It says, I know who I am, and I don't need to convince you. There is a psychological phenomenon where people value what they have to work for more than what is freely handed to them. Chasing removes effort from the other person. Stopping reintroduces it. Suddenly, they must lean in. They must wonder. They must decide. That internal engagement is what creates emotional attachment. You're no longer doing the emotional labor for both of you. When you stop chasing, you also interrupt unhealthy patterns. Many relationships fall into a dynamic where one person pursues and the other withdraws. The more one chases, the more the other feels crowded. By stopping, you break that cycle. The withdrawal often reverses, not because of manipulation, but because balance is restored. Human beings naturally seek equilibrium. Your energy becomes lighter when you stop chasing. You're no longer tense, waiting for replies, analyzing tone, or replaying conversations. This lightness shows in your voice, your body language, and your presence. Light energy feels safe. It feels refreshing. People are drawn to those who are not emotionally demanding but emotionally secure. Stopping the chase forces you to confront yourself. It brings you face to face with your own needs, desires, and boundaries. Instead of focusing on how to keep someone else interested, you begin asking whether they are actually meeting you where you are. This internal shift raises your standards, often without you saying a word. And higher standards naturally change how others treat you. When you stop chasing, you begin to value your time differently. You no longer arrange your life around someone's availability or mood. Your schedule reflects your priorities, passions, and responsibilities. This independence is deeply attractive because it signals that your life is full and meaningful on its own. People are drawn to those who are already fulfilled, not those waiting to be completed. Silence becomes a form of communication when you stop chasing. Not the cold, punishing silence, but the peaceful silence of self-respect. This silence gives the other person space to feel your absence. Absence creates contrast. It highlights what they took for granted. Often, it's only when someone stops reaching out that their value becomes fully visible. Emotionally, stopping the chase allows you to regulate rather than react. You no longer feel compelled to send messages driven by anxiety or insecurity. Instead, your actions come from clarity. Clarity creates consistency, and consistency builds trust. Even from a distance, people can sense when someone is emotionally stable. There is also a shift in power when you stop chasing. Though it's not about control, it's about self-control. Power in relationships comes from the ability to walk away from what does not serve you. When you demonstrate even silently, that you can stand on your own, it changes how others perceive you. You become someone to be respected, not persuaded. Stopping the chase also allows genuine desire to reveal itself. If someone only stays when you pursue them, the connection is being held together by effort, not interest. When you stop, you allow truth to surface. If they return, it's because they want to, not because you convince them. That distinction matters deeply for long-term emotional safety. From an energetic perspective, chasing feels heavy. It carries urgency and need. Attraction thrives in ease. When you stop chasing, your energy softens. You become more present, more intuitive, more yourself. Authenticity is magnetic because it feels real, and real connections are what people crave, even if they don't always know how to articulate it. You also begin to trust yourself more. Each moment you resist the urge to chase, you strengthen your self-trust. You prove to yourself that you can sit with discomfort without abandoning your dignity. This inner trust builds confidence, and confidence changes everything, from how you speak to how you make decisions. When you stop chasing, you stop trying to manage outcomes. You release the need to control how someone feels or what they choose. This surrender is not weakness, it's strength. It shows emotional intelligence. People are more likely to return to someone who allows freedom than to someone who tries to hold on tightly. Your emotional availability becomes selective rather than automatic. Instead of giving access to anyone who shows interest, you begin to observe actions, consistency, and effort. This selectiveness elevates your value because it communicates discernment. You're no longer available to everyone, only to those who meet you with equal energy. Stopping the chase often reveals how much emotional labor you were doing alone. This realization can be uncomfortable, but it's also liberating. You no longer carry the weight of sustaining connection by yourself. Relationships become mutual or they fade, and either outcome protects your well-being. As you stop chasing, you may notice an initial silence or distance. This can feel unsettling, especially if you're used to constant interaction. But this quiet is not emptiness, it's adjustment. It's the recalibration of dynamics. Often, this is the moment when the other person begins to feel the shift most strongly. You also become more emotionally attractive because you're no longer predictable. Predictability can be comforting, but mystery creates desire. When you stop chasing, you reintroduce mystery, not by playing games, but by simply living your life without constant updates or reassurance seeking. Your self-image begins to change as well. You stop seeing yourself as someone who must fight to be loved and start seeing yourself as someone who deserves reciprocity. This internal redefinition is subtle, but transformative. How you see yourself dictates what you tolerate and what you attract. Stopping the chase teaches patience. You learn to allow things to unfold rather than forcing them. Patience is a sign of inner security. It tells the world that you are not desperate for validation, that you trust timing, and that you are willing to wait for what aligns rather than grabbing what is available. When you stop chasing, you give others the opportunity to miss you. Missing is an emotion that cannot exist without distance. When someone misses you, they reconnect with the emotional impact you had on their life. This reconnection often becomes the seed for their return. You also free yourself from constant emotional monitoring. No more checking phones obsessively or reading between lines. This freedom restores mental clarity. With clarity comes better judgment, better communication, and better choices in relationships. Stopping the chase allows our true personality to surface. When you're chasing, you often filter yourself to be more agreeable, more accommodating, less demanding. When you stop, you allow yourself to be honest, expressive, and real. Authenticity deepens connection far more than compliance ever could. Your boundaries strengthen naturally. You don't have to announce them or defend them. They are reflected in your behavior. You don't overextend. You don't overgive. You don't stay where you're undervalued. Boundaries expressed through action are the most powerful kind. As you stop chasing, you may notice a shift in who is drawn to you. People who thrive on attention may drift away, while those who value mutual respect may step closer. This filtering effect improves the quality of your relationships over time. There is a quiet dignity in not chasing. It's the dignity of knowing that love, attention, and effort should be mutual. This dignity is felt, not argued. It creates a presence that lingers in people's minds long after interactions end. Emotionally, you begin to feel safer with yourself. You realize that you can survive uncertainty without losing your sense of self. This emotional safety becomes your anchor. From that place, you no longer cling, you connect. Stopping the chase also changes how you experience rejection or distance. Instead of internalizing it as a reflection of your worth, you see it as information. Information empowers you. It allows you to make choices aligned with self-respect rather than fear. Your communication becomes more intentional. You speak because you want to, not because you're anxious. You respond, not react. This intentionality is calming to others. It signals emotional control, which is deeply reassuring and attractive. When you stop chasing, you begin to embody abundance rather than scarcity. Scarcity says, if I lose this, I lose everything. Abundance says, what is meant for me will meet me halfway. This mindset shift transforms how you move through relationships. You also model healthy behavior. Whether consciously or unconsciously, you show others how to treat you. By not chasing, you demonstrate that effort is expected, not optional. Many people rise to the standard you set through your actions. Over time, stopping the chase rewires your emotional habits. You become less impulsive, less anxious, and more grounded. These traits create a stable emotional environment, one that people often want to return to because it feels peaceful and secure. Finally, when you stop chasing, you stop abandoning yourself. You stay loyal to your values, your needs, and your emotional well-being. This self-loyalty is the foundation of true attraction. People return not because you pulled them back, but because your presence felt like home. And your absence reminded them of that truth. Staying emotionally composed is not about suppressing feelings or pretending you don't care. It is about learning how to hold your emotions without letting them control your actions. When emotions surge, especially in moments of uncertainty or distance, the instinct is often to react immediately. Emotional composure interrupts that impulse. It creates a pause between what you feel and what you do, and in that pause, you regain power over your choices. Emotional reactions are often loud and urgent, driven by fear of loss or rejection. When you remain composed, you communicate stability. Stability is deeply attractive because it signals safety. People are naturally drawn to those who feel steady, even in emotionally charged situations. Composure tells the other person that you are not easily shaken, that your inner world is not dependent on their every move. When you stay emotionally composed, you avoid escalating situations unnecessarily. Many conflicts are not born from the issue itself, but from how quickly emotions spiral. By staying calm, you prevent misunderstandings from turning into emotional chaos. This restraint often causes the other person to slow down as well, creating space for clarity instead of conflict. Emotional composure changes how your words are received. The same message delivered calmly carries far more weight than one delivered with heightened emotion. When you speak from a composed place, your words sound thoughtful rather than reactive. This makes the listener more open and less defensive, increasing the chance of genuine understanding. Remaining composed also protects your dignity. Emotional outbursts, pleading, or accusations often leave people feeling exposed or regretful afterward. Composure allows you to express yourself without sacrificing self-respect. Even if the situation does not resolve immediately, you walk away knowing you honored yourself. And that internal peace is invaluable. When you do not emotionally react, you allow the other person to fully experience the consequences of their actions. Emotional reactions often distract from the core issue. By staying composed, you don't cushion them from discomfort. This absence of emotional noise can be unsettling, prompting reflection. Reflection is often the first step towards someone realizing your value. Emotional composure also communicates confidence. Confidence is not loud or dramatic, it is quiet and assured. When you remain calm, you signal that you trust yourself to handle whatever outcome arises. This self-trust is contagious. Others begin to trust you more because you demonstrate control over your emotions. Staying composed helps you maintain perspective. When emotions run high, it's easy to catastrophize, to assume the worst, or to read too deeply into small actions. Composure anchors you in the present moment. It allows you to observe what is actually happening rather than what you fear might happen. Your emotional composure sets the emotional tone of the interaction. Emotions are contagious. When you remain calm, you often de-escalate tension simply through your presence. This can shift the entire dynamic, turning potentially volatile moments into opportunities for connection or understanding. Being emotionally composed also allows you to listen more effectively. When you are not consumed by your own emotional reaction, You can truly hear what the other person is saying. This deep listening fosters empathy and insight, helping you respond in ways that are aligned rather than reactive. Emotional composure creates mystery. When you don't immediately reveal how deeply something affects you, you maintain an element of intrigue. This is not about hiding feelings, but about pacing emotional disclosure. Pacing allows emotional connection to deepen naturally rather than overwhelming the other person. Remaining calm in emotionally charged moments also strengthens your self-esteem. Each time you choose composure over reaction, you reinforce the belief that you are capable and resilient. This internal reinforcement builds emotional independence, reducing the need for external validation. When you stay emotionally composed, you avoid the trap of over-explaining. Over-explaining often stems from anxiety, the desire to be understood or validated. Composure allows you to trust that what needs to be said can be said simply. Simplicity carries authority and confidence. Emotional composure helps you maintain healthy boundaries. When emotions take over, boundaries can blur. You might say yes when you mean no, or tolerate behavior you normally wouldn't. Composure keeps you aligned with your values, allowing you to act in ways that protect your well-being. Your calmness can act as a mirror for the other person. When they are emotionally charged and you are not, it highlights the contrast. This contrast often leads them to question their own reactions. In many cases, it encourages them to regulate themselves to match your energy. Staying emotionally composed also reduces regret. Reactive moments often lead to words or actions that cannot be taken back. Composure ensures that your behavior aligns with your long-term goals rather than short-term emotional relief. This alignment fosters a sense of integrity. When you are emotionally composed, you become less predictable. Predictability in emotional reactions can make dynamics stale or manipulative. Composure introduces uncertainty in a healthy way. It shifts the dynamic from reactive to reflective, prompting the other person to engage more thoughtfully. Emotional composure allows you to detach your sense of worth from immediate outcomes. You no longer see delayed responses or distance as personal failures. Instead, you view them as circumstances. This detachment protects your self-image and keeps your confidence intact. Remaining composed also improves your emotional communication skills. You learn to express feelings without dramatizing them. This clarity helps others understand you without feeling overwhelmed or pressured, fostering healthier emotional exchanges. Your composure can create a sense of emotional safety for others. People often return to those who make them feel safe to express themselves without fear of emotional backlash. Safety is a cornerstone of emotional connection and long-term attraction. Emotional composure helps you navigate uncertainty with grace. Uncertainty is unavoidable in relationships. By staying calm, you show that you can tolerate not knowing without losing yourself. This tolerance is a sign of emotional maturity. When you stay emotionally composed, you are less likely to engage in emotional bargaining. You don't trade your peace for attention or reassurance. This self-preservation strengthens your emotional foundation and makes your presence more grounded. Your calm demeanor can also slow down impulsive decisions. When emotions are intense, people often make choices they later regret. Composure gives you the clarity to choose actions that align with your values and long-term well-being. Emotional composure enhances your presence. There is a quiet strength in someone who remains calm under pressure. This strength is felt even in silence. It leaves a lasting impression because it is rare and deeply reassuring. When you are composed, you also become more selective in how you invest emotionally. You no longer pour energy into situations that drain you. This selectivity preserves your emotional resources and ensures they are directed toward reciprocal connections. Staying emotionally composed allows you to process emotions privately before sharing them. This processing leads to more thoughtful expression. When you do choose to share, your words are grounded and purposeful rather than raw and overwhelming. Emotional composure helps you avoid emotional triangulation or seeking validation from multiple sources. You become self-sufficient in regulating your emotions. This independence reduces drama and fosters inner peace. When you maintain composure, you model healthy emotional behavior. Others often learn how to treat you by observing how you treat yourself. Your calm response teaches them to approach you with respect and consideration. Remaining emotionally composed also allows you to appreciate silence. Silence no longer feels threatening. It becomes a space for reflection. This comfort with silence signals confidence and emotional depth. Your composure can transform difficult moments into opportunities for growth. Instead of reacting defensively, you respond with curiosity. Curiosity opens the door to understanding, which can deepen connection or clarify necessary boundaries. Emotional composure strengthens your intuition. When emotions are regulated, intuition becomes clearer. You can sense what feels right or wrong without the noise of anxiety or fear distorting your perception. Staying composed helps you maintain emotional balance even when outcomes are uncertain. Balance is attractive because it reflects harmony within yourself. People are drawn to those who are internally aligned. When you are emotionally composed, you no longer chase reassurance. You trust your own assessment of situations. This self-reliance reduces dependency and fosters mutual respect. Emotional composure also allows you to respond to change with adaptability. Relationships evolve, and change can trigger emotional reactions. Composure helps you adjust without losing your sense of self. Your calm presence can act as an anchor in emotionally turbulent situations. Others may find themselves returning to that anchor because it represents stability and understanding. Staying emotionally composed helps you honor your feelings without being ruled by them. You acknowledge what you feel, but you choose how to act. This conscious choice is the essence of emotional intelligence. Emotional composure ultimately transforms how you experience connection. You move from seeking emotional validation to sharing emotional experiences. This shift deepens relationships and creates a sense of mutual presence. When you maintain composure, you give yourself time. Time to think, to feel, to decide. Time creates wisdom. Wisdom shapes behavior that aligns with self-respect and clarity. Emotional composure allows you to remain grounded in your values, even when emotions fluctuate. Values provide a stable framework for decision-making. This stability is felt by others as reliability. Your ability to stay composed in emotional moments often becomes the quality others remember most about you. It leaves an impression of strength, ace, and depth, qualities that linger in memory. Remaining emotionally composed frees you from the cycle of emotional highs and lows. This steadiness fosters peace. Peace becomes your baseline, and people are naturally drawn back to where they feel calm and understood. Focusing on your life instead of chasing someone's attention is a powerful internal shift that begins quietly but changes everything. At first, it may feel unfamiliar because so much emotional energy may have been invested in monitoring another person's actions, moods, and availability. Redirecting that energy back to yourself can feel strange, even uncomfortable, but it is the beginning of reclaiming your emotional independence. When your attention returns to your own life, you start to feel whole again rather than fragmented. When you prioritize your own life, your days stop revolving around waiting for messages, waiting for calls, waiting for reassurance, waiting for signs. Instead, your time fills with purpose. Purpose does not have to be grand. It can be as simple as tending to your responsibilities, nurturing hobbies, or reconnecting with parts of yourself that were neglected. This shift changes how you carry yourself. You move with intention rather than anticipation. Your emotional state stabilizes when your focus is no longer external. When attention is placed solely on someone else, your mood becomes reactive. Their behavior dictates how you feel. By turning inward and focusing on your own Ife, you regain emotional control. Your happiness becomes self-generated instead of externally assigned. This self-sufficiency is deeply empowering. As you invest in your own life, you naturally become more present in it. You notice small joys that were previously overshadowed by emotional preoccupation. Simple moments regain meaning. Presence creates depth, and depth creates fulfillment. Fulfillment is magnetic because it radiates contentment rather than need. Focusing on your life also rebuilds your identity outside of relationships. It reminds you that you are more than someone's partner, interest, or option. You reconnect with your values, interests, and goals. This reconnection strengthens your sense of self, making you less likely to compromise your boundaries for attention. When your life is full, attention becomes a bonus rather than a necessity. You no longer measure your worth by how often someone reaches out or how intensely they pursue you. This shift alters the dynamic entirely. People are drawn to those who choose connection, not those who depend on it. Your confidence grows subtly but steadily when you invest in yourself. Confidence built this way is quiet and authentic. It doesn't need validation or applause. It comes from knowing that your life has meaning regardless of who is watching. This kind of confidence is rare and compelling. By focusing on your life, you also stop overanalyzing interactions. When your world is rich and engaging, you don't have the mental space to dissect every word or pause. This mental freedom reduces anxiety and restores clarity. Clarity allows you to respond thoughtfully rather than emotionally. Your priorities become clearer when your focus shifts inward. You begin to see what truly matters to you and what does not. This clarity influences your decisions, including who you allow into your life. You become more selective, not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. When you invest in your own growth, you naturally evolve. Growth changes how you think, feel, and behave. This evolution is noticeable to others. People sense when someone is expanding, learning, and becoming more aligned with themselves. That alignment is attractive because it feels authentic and grounded. Focusing on your life also helps you release control. When attention is fixated on someone else, there is often an underlying desire to control outcomes. By turning your attention inward, you accept that you cannot manage another person's choices. This acceptance brings peace and emotional maturity. Your independence strengthens as you rely less on external validation. Independence does not mean emotional isolation. It means emotional stability. You can connect deeply without losing yourself. This balance creates healthier relationships and prevents emotional burnout. As your life becomes richer, your energy shifts. You move from scarcity to abundance. Scarcity says there is not enough love, time, or opportunity. Abundance recognizes that your life holds many sources of fulfillment. This mindset shift transforms how you show up emotionally. Focusing on your life also improves your self-trust. Each time you choose yourself, you reinforce the belief that you can take care of your own emotional needs. This trust reduces fear and increases resilience. Resilience allows you to navigate uncertainty without losing your sense of self. Your interactions become more genuine when your focus is not on gaining approval. You speak and act from authenticity rather than strategy. Authenticity fosters deeper connections because it invites others to be real as well. When your life is full, you naturally become less available to dynamics that drain you. You don't tolerate inconsistency or emotional neglect because you have better things to invest your energy in. This shift raises the standard for how others treat you. Focusing on your life also brings a sense of balance. Relationships become one part of your world rather than the center of it. This balance prevents emotional overwhelm and creates space for joy, creativity, and rest. Your sense of purpose becomes clearer as you invest in what matters to you. Purpose anchors you during emotional uncertainty. When relationships feel unstable, purpose provides direction and meaning, preventing you from losing yourself in someone else's confusion. As you prioritize your own life, you stop postponing happiness. You no longer wait for someone else's presence or approval to enjoy your life. You allow yourself to experience fulfillment now, not someday. This immediacy changes your emotional posture. Focusing on your life also helps you heal unresolved wounds. When attention is constantly outward, inner work is often avoided. Turning inward creates space for reflection, healing, and growth. Healing strengthens emotional capacity and self-awareness. Your emotional boundaries become stronger when your life is centered around you. You recognize when something disrupts your peace, and you respond accordingly. Strong boundaries protect your energy and preserve your emotional well-being. As you build a life you enjoy, you become less afraid of loss. Loss no longer feels like emptiness because your life remains full. This freedom from fear allows you to connect without clinging, to care without attachment. Focusing on your life also enhances your emotional intelligence. You become more aware of your needs, triggers, and patterns. This awareness improves how you navigate relationships and communicate your boundaries. Your sense of fulfillment becomes internal rather than conditional. You no longer tie your happiness to someone else's behavior. This internal fulfillment creates emotional stability and confidence. When you invest in yourself, you naturally attract people who align with your values and energy. Alignment replaces pursuit. Connection feels mutual rather than forced. Focusing on your life teaches patience. You learn to allow the NGS to unfold rather than rushing outcomes. Patience reflects trust in yourself and in life. This trust changes how you experience relationships. Your presence becomes more engaging when you are genuinely invested in your own life. You bring stories, experiences, and perspectives that reflect growth and depth. This richness enhances connection without effort. As you continue to prioritize your life, you stop seeking distraction through attention. You no longer need constant interaction to feel valued. This independence fosters emotional peace. Your self-worth solidifies as you recognize that you are deserving of a full, meaningful life, regardless of relationship status. This recognition changes how you approach connection. Focusing on your life also helps you release attachment to specific outcomes. You remain open to connection without being dependent on it. This openness creates space for healthy dynamics. Your emotional resilience strengthens as you handle challenges without losing yourself. Resilience is attractive because it signals strength and stability. When your life feels aligned, your energy feels calm and confident. This calm confidence is felt by others even in silence. Focusing on your life ultimately transforms how you experience love. Love becomes something you share rather than something you seek to fill a void. Communicating less but meaning more begins with understanding that words carry weight when they are not overused. When communication becomes constant, its value decreases. Messages turn into noise rather than signals. By speaking less, you allow each word to land with intention. You stop talking out of anxiety and start communicating from clarity. This shift alone transforms how your presence is perceived. When you reduce unnecessary communication, you break the habit of filling silence. Silence often feels uncomfortable because it creates space for uncertainty. Many people talk more to escape that discomfort. Choosing to communicate less means you are comfortable with pauses, with waiting, with not knowing. This comfort signals emotional strength and self-trust, qualities that naturally command attention. Meaningful communication is rooted in intention rather than impulse. When you speak less, you are more selective about when and why you speak. Your words are no longer driven by the need for reassurance or validation. They come from a grounded place. This makes what you say feel deliberate and sincere, which increases its impact. Communicating less also protects you from over-explaining. Over-explaining often comes from fear of being misunderstood or rejected. It can dilute your message and weaken your position. When you trust that what you say is enough, you stop justifying yourself. This restraint communicates confidence and self-respect without requiring explanation. When you limit communication, you allow others to engage more actively. Constant talking can unintentionally take up emotional space that should be shared. By saying less, you invite the other person to contribute, to ask, to lean in. Engagement deepens when communication is balanced rather than one-sided. Meaningful words are remembered, excessive words are forgotten. When you speak less, people tend to remember what you said because it stands out. Your words gain significance simply because they are rare. This rarity creates anticipation and curiosity, drawing others towards you emotionally. Communicating less helps you avoid emotional dumping. Emotional dumping often overwhelms others and creates imbalance. By choosing your moments carefully, you ensure that emotional sharing is mutual and appropriate. This balance fosters respect and emotional safety. When you speak less, your listening improves. You become more attentive to tone, timing, and unspoken cues. Listening deeply allows you to respond more effectively. Responses grounded in understanding feel more meaningful than those driven by assumptions or emotional urgency. Reducing communication also helps regulate emotions. When emotions are intense, speaking immediately can lead to regret. Communicating less gives you time to process feelings internally before expressing them. This processing results in calmer, clearer communication that aligns with your values. Meaningful communication often involves saying what truly matters rather than everything you feel. This discernment reflects emotional intelligence. You recognize that not every thought needs to be shared, and not every feeling needs immediate expression. This awareness enhances your emotional presence. When you communicate less, you create space for interpretation. Not everything needs to be spelled out. Allowing room for interpretation invites the other person to reflect and engage mentally. This mental engagement strengthens emotional connection. Limiting communication also reduces dependency. When you are not constantly reaching out, you break patterns of emotional reliance. This independence shifts the dynamic from need-based interaction to choice-based interaction. Choice feels empowering and attractive. Speaking less encourages authenticity. When you are not trying to maintain constant interaction, you are less likely to perform or impress. You speak when you have something genuine to say. Authenticity resonates because it feels real and unforced. Meaningful communication respects timing. Knowing when to speak is just as important as knowing what to say. By communicating less, you become more aware of timing. Well-timed words carry more emotional weight and are more likely to be received positively. When you reduce communication, you also reduce miscommunication. Over-communication can create confusion, mixed signals, or emotional overwhelm. Clear, concise communication minimizes misunderstandings and fosters clarity. Communicating less but meaning more also strengthens boundaries. You are not always available, and that availability is intentional. Bounda. Re's expressed through limited communication signal. Self-respect and emotional discipline. Your words gain authority when they are not diluted by excess. Authority does not come from volume, but from clarity. Speaking less allows your message to stand on its own without being buried under unnecessary detail. Limiting communication helps you detach from immediate reactions. You no longer feel compelled to respond instantly. This pause creates emotional control and prevents reactive exchanges that can damage connection. Meaningful communication often involves honesty delivered calmly. When you speak less, honesty becomes easier because you are not tangled in emotional overexpression. Calm honesty fosters trust and respect. When you are selective with communication, you conserve emotional energy. Constant communication can be draining. Conserving energy allows you to show up more fully when it truly matters. Speaking less also allows actions to speak louder. Words lose power when they are not supported by behavior. By communicating less, you naturally emphasize actions, which are often more convincing and memorable. Reducing communication creates emotional contrast. The difference between silence and speech becomes noticeable. This contrast makes moments of connection feel more significant and engaging. When you communicate less, you become less predictable. Predictability can reduce excitement and emotional engagement. Thoughtful, intentional communication keeps interactive. Ons, dynamic and interesting. Meaningful communication aligns with self-respect. You do not feel the need to explain your worth or convince others of your value. Your words reflect self-assurance rather than insecurity. Limiting communication also reduces emotional clutter. Too many words can cloud understanding. Fewer words bring focus and clarity to what truly matters. Speaking less encourages mutual effort. When you are not carrying the conversation alone, the other person must participate equally. This balance fosters healthier dynamics. Communicating less but meaning more creates emotional depth. Depth comes from substance, not frequency. Each interaction feels purposeful rather than routine. When you are intentional with communication, you set the tone for how others interact with you. Your calm, measured approach invites respect and attentiveness. Reducing communication also allows space for reflection. Reflection deepens understanding and emotional awareness, strengthening future interactions. Meaningful communication honors your inner world. You share selectively, protecting what is personal and valuable. This protection reinforces self-worth. Speaking less can also reduce conflict. Many arguments escalate through excessive words. Calm, concise communication diffuses tension and maintains dignity. When you communicate less, you trust that silence does not equal loss. You trust connection enough to allow space. This trust reflects emotional maturity, meaning. Full words often come from presence. By not constantly communicating, you remain present with yourself. Presence enhances the quality of what you eventually say. Limiting communication helps you avoid emotional manipulation, both giving and receiving. Clear, concise communication reduces ambiguity and power struggles. Communicating less but meaning more ultimately transforms how you are perceived. You are seen as thoughtful, grounded, and emotionally intelligent. Someone whose words matter because they are chosen with care, setting boundaries. Without anger begins with understanding that boundaries are not punishments or ultimatums. They are personal standards rooted in self-respect. When boundaries are set calmly, they communicate clarity rather than conflict. Anger often arises from feeling unheard or violated, but boundaries formed without anger come from self-awareness. They say, "This is what I accept," rather than, "This is what you did wrong." When you remove anger from boundary setting, your message becomes cleaner and more powerful. Anger can blur intent and shift focus from the boundary itself to the emotion behind it. Calm boundaries keep the attention where it belongs, on behavior and expectations. This calmness makes it harder for others to dismiss or invalidate your needs. Boundaries without anger reflect emotional maturity. They show that you are not reacting impulsively or trying to control someone else. Instead, you are managing your own behavior and choices. This distinction matters. People respect boundaries more when they are presented as personal decisions rather than emotional reactions. Anger often invites defensiveness. When boundaries are set with anger, the other person may focus on protecting themselves rather than understanding you. Calm boundaries reduce defensiveness. They create space for the other person to listen, reflect, and respond thoughtfully rather than emotionally. Setting boundaries without anger also protects your peace. Anger can linger long after a conversation ends, draining emotional energy. Calm boundaries allow you to assert yourself without carrying emotional residue. You feel grounded rather than agitated, clear rather than conflicted. When you set boundaries calmly, you model self-control. Self-control is a form of strength that is deeply respected. It shows that you are not easily provoked and that your emotions do not dictate your actions. This steadiness often shifts how others interact with you. Boundaries expressed without anger are easier to maintain. Anger-driven boundaries are often inconsistent because they depend on emotional intensity. Calm boundaries are sustainable because they are rooted in values, not feelings. Sustainability makes boundaries credible and effective. When anger is removed, boundaries become less about confrontation and more about alignment. You are not trying to force change, you are aligning your life with what feels healthy and respectful. This alignment creates internal consistency, which strengthens confidence. Setting boundaries calmly also reduces guilt. Anger often masks guilt or fear of rejection. Calm boundaries are clearer and cleaner, leaving less room for self-doubt. You know why the boundary exists, and you trust your right to have it. Boundaries without anger communicate that you respect both yourself and the other person. Respect is evident in tone, timing, and delivery. Even firm boundaries can be delivered with kindness. Kindness does not weaken a boundary, it strengthens it. When you set boundaries without anger, you detach from the need for immediate validation. You are not seeking agreement or approval. You are simply stating what you will do or not do. This detachment reinforces autonomy and self-respect. Calm boundaries often reveal who is willing to respect you. When anger is absent, reactions are more honest. Those who value you will adjust. Those who resist may reveal patterns that inform your future choices. Either outcome provides clarity. Setting boundaries without anger helps you stay emotionally regulated during difficult conversations. Regulation allows you to remain present and articulate. You can express yourself clearly without escalating tension or losing control. Boundaries delivered calmly also prevent escalation. Anger can turn a simple boundary into a larger conflict. Calmness keeps the situation contained. It prevents unnecessary drama and preserves the relationship where possible. When you consistently set boundaries without anger, you build trust with yourself. You learn that you can protect your needs without harming others or yourself. This self-trust strengthens emotional resilience. Boundaries without anger are often more flexible. They allow room for dialogue and adjustment without compromising core values. Flexibility does not mean weakness, it means discernment. Setting boundaries calmly shifts power dynamics. Power moves from emotional reaction to intentional choice. You are no longer responding to others, you are responding to yourself. This internal shift is transformative. Anger often seeks to be seen and acknowledged. Calm boundaries do not seek attention, they seek respect. This difference changes how your boundaries are received and remembered. When you remove anger, boundaries become less personal and more principled. They are not about a specific incident alone, but about consistent patterns and values. This broader perspective adds weight to your stance. Calm boundary setting also reduces emotional exhaustion. You are not reliving hurt or defending your feelings repeatedly. You state your boundary once and stand by it through action rather than repeated explanation. Boundaries without anger encourage accountability. They make consequences clear without threats or hostility. Accountability feels fairer and more reasonable when delivered calmly. When you set boundaries calmly, you create emotional safety. Others feel less attacked and more open to understanding. Emotional safety supports healthier communication and mutual respect. Calm boundaries allow you to disengage gracefully if necessary. You can step back without drama or resentment. This grace preserves dignity and emotional balance. Setting boundaries without anger also clarifies your priorities. You see what truly matters to you and where you are willing to compromise or not. This clarity guides future decisions. Boundaries expressed calmly often inspire similar behavior in others. Emotional regulation is contagious. Your calmness may encourage others to approach conflict more thoughtfully. When anger is absent, boundaries become easier to enforce through consistency rather than confrontation. Consistency communicates seriousness more effectively than emotional intensity. Calm boundary setting reduces misunderstanding. Anger can distort language and tone. Calm communication ensures that your message is heard as intended. Boundaries without anger help you avoid power struggles. You are not trying to win or dominate, you are simply choosing what aligns with your well-being. Setting boundaries calmly allows you to remain compassionate without self-sacrifice. Compassion and self-respect can coexist when anger is removed. When you practice calm boundary setting, you strengthen emotional intelligence. You learn to navigate complex interactions with awareness and control. Boundaries without anger create space for mutual growth. They invite reflection rather than resistance. Reflection can lead to positive change over time. Calm boundaries also protect your identity. You do not lose yourself in emotional reactions. You remain grounded in who you are and what you stand for. When you set boundaries without anger, you honor your emotions without being ruled by them. This balance fosters inner peace and self-respect. Boundaries expressed calmly are more likely to be remembered and respected. Their clarity and steadiness leave a lasting impression. Setting boundaries without anger ultimately reinforces your sense of agency. You recognize that you have the power to choose what you allow into your life and what you do not. Detaching from the outcome begins with recognizing how much emotional energy is consumed by expectation. When you are attached to a specific result, your mind constantly scans for signs, reassurance, and confirmation. Every delay feels personal, every silence feels loud, and every interaction carries hidden pressure. Detachment gently releases that pressure. It allows you to show up without mentally gripping the future, without trying to predict or control what will happen next. Outcome attachment often disguises itself as hope, but underneath it is fear. The fear that if things don't turn out a certain way, something about you will be diminished. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop equating your worth with how someone else chooses. This distinction is powerful. When you no longer tie your self-value to a particular outcome, you become emotionally freer and more grounded. When you detach from the outcome, your behavior naturally shifts. You stop performing for approval and start acting from authenticity. Your words are no longer designed to secure a response or provoke a reaction. They reflect who you are, not what you're trying to get. This authenticity feels lighter and more real, and people can sense the difference immediately. Detachment also removes emotional pressure from interactions. Pressure, even when unspoken, can be felt. It shows up in tone, timing, and urgency. When you are detached, conversations flow more naturally because there is no hidden agenda. You are present rather than strategic. Presence is deeply attractive because it feels genuine and unforced. Letting go of the outcome allows you to observe reality clearly. Attachment clouds perception. You may ignore red flags or reinterpret inconsistency as potential. Detachment sharpens awareness. You see behavior for what it is rather than what you hope it will become. This clarity protects you from investing emotionally where reciprocity is absent. Detachment shifts your focus from control to trust. Control seeks certainty, trust accepts uncertainty. When you trust yourself to handle any outcome, you no longer need to manage someone else's choices. This trust builds emotional resilience. You become confident not because you know what will happen, but because you know you'll be okay regardless. When you detach from the outcome, you stop waiting for emotional permission to live your life. You no longer pause your joy, plans, or growth until someone decides what they want. Life continues forward. This forward movement changes your energy. You are no longer suspended in limbo. You are engaged with your own experience. Detachment reduces emotional reactivity. When outcomes matter less, triggers lose their intensity. A delayed response doesn't spiral into self-doubt. Distance doesn't immediately translate into rejection. You respond instead of react. This emotional regulation creates inner calm and outward confidence. By detaching, you allow desire to be mutual rather than forced. Attachment often tries to pull desire closer. Detachment gives desire space to reveal itself honestly. If someone moves toward you, it's because they want to, not because they were nudged or persuaded. This authenticity makes connection feel safer and more satisfying. Detachment also restores balance in power dynamics. When you are attached to a specific outcome, Power unconsciously shifts outward. Your mood depends on someone else's actions. What? And you detach, power returns inward. You regain agency over how you feel, how you act, and what you choose to tolerate. Letting go of the outcome helps you enjoy the present moment. Attachment pulls you into the future, into what-if scenarios and imagined endings. Detachment anchors you in now. You experience conversations, connections, and experiences as they are, not as steps toward a desired result. Detachment strengthens your intuition. When you are not emotionally invested in a specific ending, you can sense alignment or misalignment more clearly. Your intuition speaks louder when it's not drowned out by fear or hope. This clarity guides better decisions and healthier boundaries. When you detach, you become less afraid of loss. Loss no longer feels like collapse, it feels like transition. You understand that what leaves creates space for something else. This mindset reduces clinging and encourages openness. Openness is inviting because it carries no emotional weight. Detachment also encourages patience. You are no longer rushing moments or forcing timelines. Patience communicates confidence. It suggests that you believe what is meant for you will unfold without pressure. This belief changes how others experience you, calm, steady, and emotionally safe. Letting go of outcomes allows you to accept people as they are, rather than who you want them to be. Acceptance does not mean settling, it means seeing clearly. Clear vision prevents emotional bargaining and self-better. Ayal. You no longer negotiate your needs to preserve a potential future. Detachment fosters emotional independence. You still connect, still care, still invest, but from a place of choice rather than need. Independence does not push people away, it invites healthy connection. It signals that you are whole on your own and open to sharing, not seeking completion. When you detach from the outcome, you stop chasing certainty and start cultivating peace. Peace does not depend on answers, timelines, or guarantees. It comes from knowing yourself, trusting your capacity, and allowing life to unfold without gripping it too tightly. The truth is, when you stop forcing outcomes, everything begins to realign. You no longer move from fear, but from self-trust. You no longer try to hold people in place because you understand that what is meant for you will stay. And what leaves makes room for something better. This inner shift changes how you love, how you choose, and how you show up. From that place of calm confidence, connections either rise to meet you or quietly fall away, and both outcomes serve you. When you detach from the outcome, you don't lose control. You finally gain yourself.